Okay, we need to set the record straight. The record needs to clearly state that I did a favor for my sweet friend Reggie. I don't remember what it was, but I'm sure it was fantastic. And Reggie said, "I'm going to take you out for dinner to treat you and thank you." And the man took me to the CC's Pizza, y'all. I need that to be on the record.
Thank you so much for that beautiful thing you did for me. Here's a case of diarrhea.
All the pizza you can eat. In many different flavors.
Here is some intestinal dysfunction for you.
Screaming children all around us. I was like, this is the best date I've ever been on, Reggie. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking.
Je ne regrette rien.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Full face beat. Okay.
I had to, anytime I get a chance, if people are like, folks are going to see you today, I'm like, oh, do I still remember how to do this? Still remember how to do this? When I'm not wearing my husband's like oversized sweatshirt all day and nothing and no buttons.
You were Donald Ducking it.
I was Winnie the Poohing it out.
Yeah, I love the Donald Duck, man. Nothing feels right about it. It's just like, this is covered, but
Yeah.
This is
it feels
just
like my truth,
I started wearing a sarong during COVID. It's the best, man. Like,
you need to bring back sarongs.
Dude, guys, I'm telling you, men need to understand the tyranny of the pants must end.
Yes. I mean, what are you wearing right now, Reggie? Because it looks like you're in.
I'm actually wearing a Jesse Norman muumuu.
Nice.
And that's the truth.
It's actually a train that goes right out the door.
I assume that Greg is somewhere in Texas right now, just with the end of your train.
He's probably somewhere rolling his eyes like this queen.
Great, because when you don't have all that constriction around your hips, man, you can really just, we got back from France. When I was in Norway, Megan had taken all the furniture out of the house, so we went to our friend's house who had no furniture, and we were like sitting on the floor all the time. And, I kind of got a little more flexible. And she was like, I think we should get rid of our furniture. So we got back from COVID, and I was all like fucking wrecked, probably had COVID. And I never got tested, but they were like, you have COVID, so you have to stay home for 2 weeks, which is weird. You get COVID, you stay home for 2 weeks, you quarantine. Apparently, that's just for some people. But
that's a hot take. That's a hot take.
Okay, there. Just, the rest of us, we all have to stay home, can't do shit. But you go ahead and do what you want, dumbass. But like I got home and all of a sudden there was no furniture, and it would take me like a minute to get off the floor because I was so out of shape and hurt and flexed and stiff. After about 2 weeks, man, I was good. No shoes, wearing a sarong. I'm like Matthew McConaughey now. It's awesome. I see some bongos.
I like that you were like the redneck cowboy of opera, and now you're going to be the Matthew McConaughey of opera.
Yeah, that's right. It's a natural. I mean, it's the Willie Nelson progression, right?
Yeah,
it's true. It's actually that makes sense. That's a good progression.
Well, I wanted to have you guys on because this show we talk about sort of the connection that opera manifests. It's not just the the singing or the tremendous amount of money we all make at doing this for a living that brings us back to the. I mean, it's just like I feel like Scrooge McDuck sometimes, just jumping into my money, and. But what really brings us back, I think, it's my personal philosophy, is the relationships and the energy that we get from the people that we get to work with all the time. And I was talking to Reggie about coming on the show and asked if he had a connection like that he'd like to talk about. And so he said, Kerriann, and I was like, oh, Kerriann's fantastic. I love her. So Reggie, what made you think of Kerriann when I asked you about bringing folks on this show?
Yes, Reggie, say nice things about
me. Because Curtis was supposed to love me. From the Kerriann understands that. We have been paired up a couple of times now as husband and wife duo, and it just fits. It just works. From the day, I think the first time I actually met you was down in Houston. You remember you had come up from Fort Worth to do auditions, and I was like, "Oh, I've heard of you. Oh my god!" And they kind of like, "Oh my god, I got heard of you." And I was like, oh, she is nice. People have said good things about her. And I think
it's nice to find out when the good rumors are true.
Right. Yeah, thank God. Also, thank God they're good rumors. I'm glad to hear that.
I wouldn't know. All of the rumors about me are heinous and truthful. Like one of them that Kerriann has come to know is that I am frugal.
Frugal.
Some would call me cheap.
Your friends will call you cheap because your friends are going to be honest with you. Your friends will tell you you're cheap.
Well, I just don't think there's any point in spending a whole lot of money on some things you're not going to use for a while. So I love to go to the Dollar Tree. And I was trying to introduce my stage wife to this frugal lifestyle of Dollar Tree and CC's Pizza.
I'm too busy.
And I'm pretty sure she threw up.
Okay, we need to set the record straight. The record needs to clearly state that I did a favor for my sweet friend Reggie. I don't remember what it was, but I'm sure it was fantastic. And Reggie said, I'm going to take you out for dinner to treat you and thank you. And the man took me to the CC's Pizza, y'all. I need that to be on the record.
Thank you so much for that beautiful thing you did for me. Here's a case of diarrhea.
All the pizza you can eat. In many different flavors.
Here is some intestinal dysfunction for you.
Screaming children all around us. I was like, this is the best date I've ever been on, Reggie. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking.
Je ne regrette rien.
Yeah.
But, no, see, I don't know. I think from the first day, we just had that instant chemistry and connection. And, just the many jokes and laughter in rehearsals. Another great moment, I know you remember, when we were doing Marriage of Figaro, and we were so tired. And I said, God, I'm probably going to crack on stage. Ha, 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 ha. And we're in rehearsal. It was doing a wrestling. It wasn't even like an aria. It was a wrestling. I was like, Incorso.
He was holding your arm. We had just made an entrance together. I damn near wept on stage. It was so funny.
Like we had
like,
to
oh,
stop.
It's not here today. I don't have her today. Like,
I mean, it wasn't.
You're doing that
like
thing where you're trying not to laugh and you're just shaking the whole time, like tick, 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 tick.
Oh yeah, no, we
serious.
had to
I'm
stop
serious.
And, start all over. I was like, God, I'm cracking on recits. Lord have mercy. Hashtag professional. But also I get both of the times when we did Note, I will say, once we get to that scene in Act 2 where it's just the Count and Countess, when there was, when we were the only ones on stage, you could feel the energy heighten and the tension and, and everyone was like, oh my God, this is such, good back and forth. And I think it's because we both were just like encouraging the other person and egging each other on, and it made for fantastic performances, which I think is part of the point, the connection that we have with our colleagues and, getting along and encouraging each other makes for fantastic art on stage, and audiences respond to it,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the point.
I mean,
Hopefully.
Do you remember what your mom said when she came up to me after the show? Because she came at me. She came at me like, I would have smacked that boy right upside the head. Yeah. When he comes at you at the end with that Contessa Perdón, I would have right upside the back of the head.
She said, yeah, you crazy. It couldn't have been me.
Couldn't have been me.
In typical fashion of my mother. Actually, that's one of the things I need to do while I'm home. Get my mother to record her version of opera libretti, because the way she tells opera stories are absolutely hilarious.
I love that.
I would watch that. I would watch that like hours upon hours of watching that. I wouldn't be able to stop.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it happen. Like with me, my mother's like, honey, she just took too long to die. I mean, we already saw her coffin in Act 1. Then in Act 4, she want to die, then she wake up. She sang, then she died again. So I didn't even feel sad by the time she died. Thank you. I was singing Marcello. How did I do? You were fine.
Yeah, well, that's all you can ever hope for with Marcello. He was fine.
You
He didn't ruin it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think I remember that role. Yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
He had some nice harmony.
So our joke with, I love Dreamgirls also. I mean, who doesn't? But of course, Effie sings, Curtis was supposed to love me, right before she goes into And I'm Telling You. So doing Marriage Figaro, Contessa here was saying, Conte was supposed to love me.
But they were supposed to love me.
Countess Effie's Act 2 aria.
Yeah, that's my mad scene.
It's the subtext.
That's it.
Like
that's it.
You could probably use lines from Dreamgirls for all of your opera subtext. Just you just find different plot points from Dreamgirls and just explode them into an opera. It works perfect.
Yes.
And
But I think
that's what it's really about.
I was gonna say, to Reggie's point, I think that so much we bonded so much off stage, and even just the lead up. We found out that we were going to Wolf Trap together. Reggie had just either been in the semifinals, was leading up to the finals, but he was just about to win the Met, and we were talking. And I just remember having this great feeling, this great vibe between us. As we're always here for the punchline. We're always trying to be the one to make you laugh. And I could just tell that we were going to really uplift each other through it. And I think especially that when you go into a program like that could be really competitive, I think Kim Whitman and Leanne now always had really great intuition about people's personalities vibing together. And Reggie and I in particular, we really vibe. So it's been wonderful.
Well, it's one of those things you talk about your off stage, interactions that sort of fuel your on stage interactions. One of the things early on, I mean, I came up, on the, call it the Chitlin circuit of opera, the first 15 years of my career was Shreveport and Lynchburg and, Duluth and, and I was fortunate because I was able to work. I mean, you build a different kind of perspective about performing when you come up that way. Yeah. And one of the people I encountered on that tour was Dean Anthony. And he used to have these tailgates, after every rehearsal, he'd open the cooler and everybody would grab a beer and we just sit out and talk for a little bit. And, there were times when he would do that at a company and they would get kind of prickly about it. Like, oh, we don't know about having all these people out there drinking beer outside the opera house. It's just blah, blah, blah. And what I've noticed was after we did these tailgates, the rehearsals went a whole hell of a lot smoother. Because people let their guards down, and they were able to sort of communicate to each other like human beings, and share some personal experiences and stuff, and you just know more about a person that way. And your relationship seems like a macrocosm of those experiences. You're able to sort of communicate in a different way, and you don't have to talk about everything. You can just things can just happen, and you can take cues off of each other.
Yeah, I mean, also I think I planned it very well by deciding not to get my driver's license until I was 29, because it
That's
did
right.
mean my
That's
good
right.
friend Reggie picked me up and drove me home from rehearsals most days.
How much gas money did he ask for every time?
Don't worry about it. You know
No.
No, I was just always like, Reggie, I made you this food.
He's like, that'll be it's going to be $1.37.
Yeah. He gave me the friends and family discount though, but he did.
That's it. I'm not that bad.
But now he's like, that's a good idea, Mike. I'm going to start doing that.
You know what I'm saying? But also that Dollar Tree, I make fun of him, and for my whole life I will make fun of you for this. But I do go to the Dollar Tree if I just need some little throwaway pans and stuff like that. I was spending so much more money. You did educate me on that, but I will say if you ever take me to a CC's Pizza again, this will be done. We will be done.
Over. Do they even have booze at a CC's?
God, they don't have pizza at a CC's.
You said they don't have pizza
It's just pizza toppings on top of a Cinnabon. I mean, that's what CC's is.
Yes.
They know. They know their market. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got diabetes last time I ate there. I was just like, well,
Here we go.
I'm on insulin now. Thanks, CC's.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
And that's Popeyes. No, it's McDonald's. But gotta love it.
Gotta love it.
Popeyes,
No,
you love that chicken from Popeyes. No, that's the best fried chicken now.
Love that chicken.
So anybody that argues with me on that, I'll fight him right here on the mic.
Well, I'm here in Memphis right now, and again,
Yeah.
a gift that my good friend Reggie gave me was taking me to Gus's famous fried chicken, and right across the street from Gus's is that donut place. And the correct answer when you're in Memphis is to slice one of those donut bad boys right in half and put that fried chicken right. The Twix.
Wait, put what in between the donut?
Fried chicken from Gus's. Listen to me. If you already are on the insulin, this will
Just go ahead. Just go ahead. That's how I committed suicide.
It's the best bite of food that you ever had. You can only have one bite.
I mean, it makes sense because, like, I love chicken and waffles, right?
Yeah.
It's because you have that fried.
Mm-hmm.
If it's spicy, even better, and then the sweet that goes with it. That's great. So, I mean, it makes sense that a donut on your chicken. Now, do you put the chicken on and then eat around the bone, or is it like you have to use a boneless cut?
Oh, I do a tender for that experience. But I mean, y'all come to, how far away is Memphis? I'll take you out. I'll treat you, Reggie. You come back here. I'll take you to Gus's. We'll grab a donut. We'll have an experience together.
I love it. But, yeah, I would say there's also something about, you talk about the Chitlin circuit, if you will, but doing shows in some of these smaller places like Memphis, which I love working in Memphis. They're great people. But you really get to know your casts. Mm-hmm. Also, because it's not like you have Six Flags and 12,000 art museums. Mm-hmm. Like, there's some nice things to do, but after a while, you're like, hey, let's all get together. And you were there when we did the, what's his name? Michael was staying in the horse barn?
Yes, the horse barn.
And he had a ventriloquist dummy in the closet of his apartment, which was at the back of a horse barn. So you had to park your car.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
But it was haunted, for sure.
You had to park your car, walk through like the horse stable. The only light was like at the very back. So you walk past like 12 horses. Then you climb up the steps and you're like, okay, well, that was creepy enough.
Yeah, this smells
great. You
great.
go to this apartment, you're like, wow, that's nice. And he said when he got there, he opened one of the little doors, and there was just a ventriloquist dummy just sitting there.
That's
and so he's like, I just leave it there, and there's no one around because you're on the farm.
Beginning of a horror movie. How do you open a door? Inside the door, there's a ventriloquist dummy just sitting there like.
Yes.
And then you close the door, and then you go to sleep? No.
And there's no one around.
You close the door, and then you drill it shut. like
yeah. Cement. You brick over that wall forever.
Terrible.
That's it. But we had a great time hanging out there. But I was like, I would not be staying here.
Also,
but likewise,
I have to know, did the people put the ventriloquist dummy in the closet and close the door? Or did the ventriloquist dummy put himself in that closet? Because I'm telling you, it's haunted. There's no way that thing isn't haunted.
But you can only get these stories in places like that, right?
Look, I used to have a hard time, like, it was. Because it was especially back like 2000 to 2004, 2006, 8, 9 when I was I'm a little bit older than y'all, and it was hard to make a year out of those gigs because you make $2,000 for 5 weeks of work, and by the time you pay for all this stuff, you got nothing left. But oftentimes you're doing like homestays, or you are staying in some pretty crazy places, and that's those stories. I mean, there's just more than I can count, But one of the things for me that I always found super empowering, and a thing that has helped me in my career now that I've been able to sort of move on to some different places and to Europe and things, is that when you're approaching an audience in Memphis or in Nashville or in Duluth or wherever, depending on it's not New York City. Oftentimes, people that are in your audience are like, they're not like people like in New York City who've been going to opera their whole lives. You get a lot of first-time people. You got a lot of people seeing things for the first time, and they're used to consuming theater or entertainment in a much different way than somebody who's been going to ballet and shit their whole lives. And so for me, it gave me a much better sort of barometer on how to entertain or how to keep people engaged when I had to fight for it, as opposed to just walking into a friendly room of people who are like, yes, this is my 37th Bohème that I've seen. I remember when I saw this in college, blah, blah, blah. When you approach it, when you have to go into a place where people are used to going to rock concerts and Broadway shows and things like that, man, it's a different kind of stakes. Have you guys felt that when you go to places like that?
That's so true. I mean, also in Memphis, when we did that, Marriage of Figaro here, the demographic in Memphis is like, I think it's like 70-ish% Black or Latino. Mm-hmm. And so it was super important for Opera Memphis, not only that the people on stage, but also the people in the orchestra were largely people of color. And so it was in an effort, and a very successful effort, because we sold out every performance, the idea was we want to reflect our audience on our stage and with our musicians. And it was the first experience that I had that was like that, where everyone involved, where they made such a deliberate point of not doing like tokenism or like, here's our Black Mimi and congratulations, but like, for the whole cast to be really representative of Memphis as a city was a really important experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing because you had people that were coming for the first time because there was a mostly Black orchestra.
Yeah.
Or you had a Black guy playing the Count, and you're like, whoa, well, this is so different. But I grew up with music. And so I grew up singing. My mother sang a lot of gospel and still does. And, she did a lot of background, and my brothers and sisters sing. And my mother was in choir, in college and all. But I didn't grow up with opera. And so my mother, along with my family, they're very honest people. Mm-hmm. They will let you know exactly how they feel, where they stand. And so if it is not clear to them, or if they don't like it, they will tell you they don't like it. Yeah. And so I grew up with this idea of how do I convince my family to like it? So when I think of putting a recital together, I think of what would the common person that's never heard any music like this before like, which is also why I usually tend to put a wide variety, because I always think at least someone will like something. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of my goal. But it's true, when you have these audiences that are not as learned, you really have to be very true to the character, and it makes you become a better actor and a musician. So it's not a bad thing.
It's almost like the laziness. We can't be lazy when we tell these stories, like you can in a situation where everyone in the audience is really familiar with it. Mm-hmm. If it's a lot of fresh eyes and fresh ears on it, you have to be so invested, like in connecting with that story. It can't be regurgitating the same blocking that you've done. Like it has to be really invigorated. And I love that.
Yeah. Like one of the things that I didn't have to argue, but I had to persuade a director once about Germont. One of the big things for me with Traviata is there is no bad guy, right? Like situation is bad, but I always felt like Germont was not the nicest person. Not that he's the bad guy, but he straight up walks up in her house and calls her out her name before he even sees who she is.
Yeah.
And then when he realizes, when she says, nah, bruh, you up in my house, I'm gonna need you to put some respect on it.
Mhm.
Then he's like, oh, who does he come and he's trying to find every little tactic, any way he can to get what he wants. And then when he finally gets what he wants, then he's like, oh, no.
What have I done?
Right. And so, I find that so often that people are like, oh, it's Traviata and he's the sympathetic father. And I'm like, is he though? Because he straight up called out her name.
Is he
is entitled. And when he realized he couldn't get what he wanted from the get-go, he said, oh, did you realize that he had a sister? She said, oh, a sister. Oh my, look at her. She's so pretty. She's so young. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work. Okay, well, let me dig deeper. It doesn't make him a bad guy, but it gives the character a little more.
Well, it makes him a goddamn human being. I mean, that's the thing that so frustrating for me with opera. When I first started watching all this Renaissance fair opera stuff, where it's like, the costumes look like they came out of, it's the 47th year of that Malabar costume, and you can smell all of the, all the other Rigolettos.
Oh yes.
And there's all these tropes and things, and like it's so easy just to that people just want things to be so simple and bad guy, good guy. It's not. It's never that simple. Life is never that simple. And when you can really magnify the humanity of one of these people, that's what makes us connect. And that's that bridge that's harder when you go to these regional markets where you have newbies, or folks. They're not really that impressed by the circus freak aspect of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to be told a good story, and they want to be engaged.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, they want to connect. I mean, I think it's funny because I know y'all are doing Pagliacci right now at Atlanta, and Dane, my husband, has sung Otaño before, and just like re-recorded the aria here for a thing, and was having this whole conversation with this director about well, it's really not right for you to do Otaño right now because you're like good looking and like your voice is pretty and like Otaño should be. And he's like, isn't it more interesting to not just do the same? Why are we doing the same? Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, why isn't it more interesting? It's the same thing with, there's another character who's anyway, but like the like the Duke, right? Like just making someone a villain for the sake of them. Scarpia, I know, is a thing that both of y'all do, right? Like just making someone the bad guy just to have a bad guy is like so much less interesting than them being a fully rounded, complex person that is driven to this, horrible, that they do a horrible thing, but that doesn't just mean, it's not black and white. It's not like, this isn't Disney. Like we're supposed to be telling real stories of real people. It's not a fairy tale. Unless you're like Reginald or some shit. But you know what I mean.
But,
well, the thing is with these characters.
I had not sung Scarpia. And
oh, but you will, Reg, right?
On the list, like way down the window.
Yeah.
But I think there's an element of Scarpia that needs to be sexy. Like
yeah. I mean, that's
something about this.
What I do.
Hey, Michael May.
Come on, toaster.
Yeah, bruh.
Get out of here. Someone mute Michael Mays.
I'm here, Tosca.
That used to be my hook. I was going to be like, whenever I get into this Verdi and Wagner stuff, I'm going to be the in-shape Verdi and Wagner guy. And then my 40s, and then Corona hit. And I was like, nah. Doing that.
Here's the thing. I am A-shape.
Hey,
so I feel like that. I mean, I'm in shape because I'm a shape. Yeah. So bravo, done it.
I'm a well-rounded singer.
We need more shape equity. Shape equity now.
Yes. All shapes. Yes.
So it's funny, it made me think about going back to like the small town, wonderful companies singing in Idaho, and it's a great company. But the theater there is the old Egyptian theater. There's no crossover backstage. Mm-hmm. So we were in the basement, had to walk out the front door, down the sidewalk to the back, really the alley to come on stage. Mm-hmm. And, this was in the winter time. And so, of course, it's snowing outside and we're walking in like Egyptian robes just on the sidewalk. People are like, like, oh, we're in a show. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's an opera. Don't worry about it.
It's an opera.
You wouldn't
But,
understand.
like, I mean, you can't make that type of stuff up. I mean, you gotta love it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I love it.
yeah, I mean, it's always great having people you get along with. And I was talking to Kerriann briefly about this earlier. I said one of the things that made me very sad about all the cancellations and things because of COVID-19 was not only the loss of work or doing the shows that I really wanted to do, but I was really sad that I wouldn't get to see and sing with some of my colleagues. That I look forward to seeing you all in San Francisco, or
Mhm.
I really wanted to do that Beethoven with you, or
Yeah.
makes me because I enjoy good singing. It doesn't have to be my own singing.
The collaboration,
Sometimes.
man, it's so nice. Like, I when I grew up, like you grew up with gospel music, and I did too, Southern gospel, and bluegrass music and country music, and you have that sort of band mentality where you're working with the same people all the time, and you have that period of the get to know you period, and then that goes away, and then you have all that's done, and you can always start from here, and then each time you can start a little further.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things about the transient nature of what we do. A lot of times we fly into a town, we don't know anybody in the cast or one or two people, and you have to go through that whole process. And it's rare that you actually fly into a gig and you're like, I know everybody on this gig, and we all get along, and it's going to be awesome. And usually that's the case. Whenever you have that dynamic in place, you can go so much further because you're not treading on eggshells. You're not like tiptoeing around trying not, like that's their no-go zone. I don't even have to go there, but all of this other real estate's available to us, and we can work within that place.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I did Out of Darkness with Robert Orth, who was my mentor and a good friend. The director might as well not even been there,
Right.
because Bob and I we just did the scene, and he would be like, oh well, why don't you just like move over there a little bit, and then okay, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of that effort and the inertia that it takes to really get the inertia you have to overcome to get to those piquant, like incredible connections on stage. All that pre-work is done, and both of you are just right there in it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not even to get into the fact that like, I think that Reggie and I, we like act very well together and our voices go very well together. But I think the foundation, all those things could go away. And the most important thing is that we've really built a friendship based on how much we genuinely are interested and care about one another. Mm-hmm. And I think all of that reads on stage and reads in our performances. And even if you're just like hearing us sing together, I think you still get a sense of that. But like we built it on really on a foundation of respect and just like rooting each other on, like sincere. I think there's so much competition, this idea of like competition, regardless of like, fuck, I know people who are bitter about, a baritone getting a gig and they're a mezzo. It has nothing to do with you. Like you weren't up for the gig. But yeah, I think the more friendships, the more that we can genuinely be happy for each other and support each other, the far better the art becomes far better that we make,
That's for sure.
And I love you, Reggie, so much.
I love you too. But it's true. I said it, but I'm a nerd when it comes to singing and repertoire and competitions and different audition arias and blah, blah, blah. I just like it. Okay.
You're a rare bird,
man. Hey, but I really do want everyone to do well. And I know that, I've done a lot of competitions, and I know that bitterness that can develop. And, there's no place for it really in what we do, especially when you start doing a show with people. I mean, there have been people that I've been cast with that, we didn't necessarily get along. We found a way to make it work on stage, obviously. But I was like, why are you just so angry all the time? Or why are you just, I was like, I didn't do anything to you. Look, we're in the same place, but I think also for me, I'm just so incredibly grateful every day. I wake up with gratitude for life. And so I appreciate what I get to do every day and for a living. And so when you also have people with that sense of wonderful energy and excited to be there, and we're going to make it work and we're going to try it out anyway, you just automatically attract to those people. Just a funny bit from rehearsal the other day, since they were laughing at me. So I don't like being high in the air. I'm not a big fan of heights, but if you give me a second, I can try to work it out. I can make it work. So I said, okay, we want you to just jump up on this platform. I said, okay. So I'm taking my time. Also, I'm a big guy, so you gotta test it, because they always get the skinniest people on the crew to test these things out. And so I was like taking one step at a time, and I finally get there, and I'm like, oh God. And Tomer says, Reggie, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. He said, oh, you're afraid of heights? I said, well, I don't like being in the air, but I like money more than I dislike being in the air. So I'm going to work it out. He was like, do you need to come down? And I was like, no, I'm good. I was like, if I fall, I can get workers' comp.
I can get more money.
I can get more money. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, because we're in Atlanta, we're employees, man. We have like health insurance and all the whole shebang. So so we can get workman's comp now. I'm like eyeing things. I'm like, what if that thing fell on me?
Oh dear, what if it fell on me? Tomer's gonna see this, right?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. No,
I'll edit this out. I'll edit it out.
It's all right. I mean, but I'm always willing to try it out. You know, I think that's also important with colleagues when you're doing a show together. I think that's one of the things that we did, that we worked very well together, Kerriann, is that if we're singing together, let's do it. Let's go like all out and see what happens.
Oh yeah.
And then, after we get done and I'm like, oh my God, that was a great duet. Then I'm like, okay, maybe I was over singing, but we did it.
Look, I'll tell you what I remember. So we did Marriage to Figaro twice. And the first time Kathy Kelly conducted us, and she was like, yeah, Kerriann, we're going to have you take all those options down. Anytime there's a trio, anytime Susanna can take the high note, you're going to go ahead and take that middle. You're going to be on the bottom part. Cool. Fantastic. Then we did it in Memphis, and they were like, Kerriann, we want you up on those high notes, mama. And so it's not hard for most singers. It's just hard for me. But like doing the like little eighth notes, and you're like going up to a high C, and you like do this passage that like goes up to a high C, and it's supposed to be kind of quiet, which is not what I believe in.
We always said soft singing is people who can't sing loud. Pretty singing is people who can't sing loud.
And I just remember like I was very scared about it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna like biff this high note. It's gonna be flat. It's gonna be under. It's gonna be ugly. And Reggie and I were like downstage center when I had to do this opening night. We'd done it in rehearsals and all this shit, but I remember the look in Reggie's eyes was like I believe it, like you got this. And but he's singing at me with this like ferocious, because we're fighting in it, but still like I could feel his belief in me, because I could be honest with him and tell him I was anxious about this thing. Like, so I think the fact that we had this great friendship allowed me to be more vulnerable, and that vulnerability allowed him to give me strength when I needed it. Right. So it all just like really worked out really beautifully for me. I don't know how great the high C was, but I know I felt good about it. So
you did that.
I can tell you this much, guys. It's so refreshing to see two colleagues and to see this side of the operatic relationship to people on stage, because so much of what we hear about opera is this stupid, tired diva devo trope that has just been beaten in the ground, not just by opera fans, but these gossip people like we all know who we're talking about.
Yes,
And,
they want the drama.
Movies and things, and they want to play up the competition and the meanness and the terribleness of it. And it's been my experience that most of the time this is much more typical of the kind of relationships we have in opera. There's always that stuff. That's human beings. That's the way we are.
Right.
But it is really refreshing, and I'm like, that's really why I started this show in the first place, and why I wanted to bring you guys on to give this audience and give our audience a little bit more of an accurate depiction of the way that interpersonal relationships actually do work and function in our business. And I want to thank you guys for coming on. This was so affirming and empowering. And it's, like we've gone almost an hour now, or close to 45 minutes, and this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. And so I wanted to thank you guys for coming on. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with that sort of typifies your interaction? We've heard a few stories, but is there something that you haven't told us yet?
Oh, let's think. Well, I will say Reggie has always been okay. So I'm biracial. My mom is white, and I remember that when I was putting together this recital, Reggie came through for me because I said, look, I want to really explore this other part of like my heritage and my culture, and like, my dad grew up in foster care, so I really didn't have a big connection to it. And Reggie hooked me up with like these amazing spirituals and all this like traditional music that I got to sing on this recital. It was really moving. But I am just going to share the funny bit was when we were at Wolf Trap, we did this. All the Black artists who were there, they wanted to do the spiritual concert. And Reggie was there talking to Tim Bruno and a couple of other young artists about it. And we were like, well, I wonder, like, someone wasn't asked to be in it, like one of the studio artists, I think. And Tim Bruno and Reggie said, well, how do you think Kerriann feels? Kerriann's Black, and they didn't ask her to do it. And at the time, Kerriann was just a little Puerto Rican. And then we discovered all this, like, this whole other side of my, like, history and my culture. And Reggie was like, come, give me your hand, and I will walk you into this experience and, like, learn with me. And, like, I mean, just the openness that it really, like, opened up a whole other side of myself, and Reggie helped like guide the way, and I'm just like incredibly grateful. Like anytime I need him, he's always been there, and a really, really supportive friend. He always comes to see me sing if he's in town. He always makes me dinner if I'm in town. Like it just couldn't.
With way too much butter. It's okay. It's fine. You didn't tell me your mother was doing like healthy stuff.
Just butter, gravy.
And I was like, oh, come over to the house. And me being super Southern, I was like, let me just go through like a stick of butter just for fun. Yeah. Just that's the appetizer.
That's flavor salve right there. Flavor salve. Just I bet it was a little more butter.
I bet it was.
Always.
But I was like, well, because then your mother was like, oh, I don't really do like spice or something. I was like, oh, well.
You don't do spice. Ha!
It was like a whole list of things that she was like doing a special diet at the time, and I was like, well,
not tonight though. Not when you come to Reggie's house. I was eating. I was like, okay, like salad and like everything else. Then a night at Reggie's house.
No.
You don't try to do a diet if you're going to eat at Reggie's house. That's the best advice I can give you in this world.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I can accommodate.
Who wants it? When you make mac and cheese, will you make mac and cheese? I do not want a diet version of that ever, Reggie. Ever.
There's no such thing as a diet version of mac and cheese, man. That's just, it's a lie. Even if it is, it's diet mac and cheese. You're a liar. You're a liar. It's not a diet.
Because if it's diet, it's not mac and cheese.
No.
It's mac and chit.
Mac and chit. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I've always valued our friendship. I think you have a glorious voice. There's a whole list of things that I think we should do, even if it's just Hansel and Gretel, because we could be the worst parents ever. As, the mother. I mean, we would be. It'd just be awful. And that's what makes them lovable. Yeah. Even though your witch is quite beautiful.
Thank you, my darling.
You know. Or you could do both. You could be the mother and the witch.
That's what I did at San Jose this year.
See there? Coins on coins.
Coins on cash on cash.
Well, I can tell you guys this, that in a time when there's so much bad news and so much to make you feel like, oh, it's just, you know, it's just every morning you wake up and it's just like, oh man. Whenever I speak to people who are so obviously as beautiful off the stage as they are on the stage, it really gives me, I mean, it gives me so much hope for the future of our art form, because I know that when I'm talking to folks like you, you're out here doing this thing for another reason other than self-aggrandizement, other than financial, whatever. It's a deeper reason. And that is so apparent talking to you both. And I think you're fantastic examples of the kind of friendships we need more of in our business. And I want to thank you guys for coming on. This was just, it made, every time I do a show, I've done a few shows like this with, I mean, I do one with Kevin Burdett and Keith Fairs. And just at the end of it, I just felt like, oh, okay, I can go out. I got a rehearsal tonight. I'm going to be popping in there like I'm going to be really a brutal dictator tonight, boy. Thanks, guys, for your positive energy. So thank you so much for coming on.
Invigorate your soul. I love that. Thank you so much for having us. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got